Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to this Sustrax MX launch event. My name is Wendy Buckley and I'm Client Director over here at Carbon Footprint. Just a little bit of background on how we've got to Sustrax MX and what it is. It's now some 17 years since Carbon Footprint first developed and launched our online carbon calculation. It's used by millions of people all over the globe, and we're very proud of that. I think when we set this up, we really wanted to make these kinds of tools as accessible, as cost effectively as possible to as many. And this is really the ethos applied here with Sustrax. We really were a little bit concerned with some of the enterprise tools that are out there in the public realm that have figures of 10K dollars or pounds attached to them, and some much more than that. And the issue being that few of us can actually afford that. And if we can't afford it, we won't do it. So immediately you put a barrier in the way to doing carbon management and to taking action on climate change, which is absolutely not the thing to do. So with that in mind, over the last 6 months or so, we've been honing Sustrax MX. The M in there stands for multi-use, multi-site, multi-person, so it's multi-language as well. The important thing being that it does exactly what you need it to do in a simple way and doesn't include all the other stuff that sometimes holds back in other enterprise systems and frankly that you can't afford to pay for. So with that in mind, I'm now going to introduce my colleagues. We've got Zoe Rudge and Miles Howard, who are going to run through the Sustrax MX for you today.
So Sustrax is a cloud-based carbon management and reporting platform. You're able to track against your carbon emissions, progress against climate change targets, and measurements against other key performance indicators for businesses. The platform is, as Wendy mentioned there already, available for multi-sites, multi-users, multi-languages. So this has really been developed with all different businesses of all different shapes and sizes in mind as well, and especially those that have a global presence. So you're able to tailor the platform to suit global operations as well as just operations in a single location. The platform allows you to gather data on your carbon emissions, analyse these and review these against any targets that you wish to set. And we do have the option to set hierarchies for various user accesses and permissions. So this allows for various security levels. You can set this up to have people ranging from group admins down to company admins, site admins, or just those that you wish to be able to set up an account so they can log in and view the data that you've got in the platform. So there's a really wide range of use against those that are wishing to use the platform and be able to log in from your business. The platform has several different levels to it, so this is really suitable for all different companies. You would choose the platform level based on your company's reporting needs. So we align with several key reporting disclosures and frameworks, many of which you will have heard of before, I'm sure. So streamlined energy and carbon reporting, and the UK government's PPN 0621, right up to a full coverage of all emission sources from the entire value chain, which would allow you to be compliant with reporting for things like Science-Based Targets Initiative. The platform has been developed through 21 years of Carbon Footprint's industry knowledge and is following the principles within the Carbon Footprint standard. So the platform allows you to calculate emissions in line with the Greenhouse Gas Protocol and other reporting guidance, such as that issued by the UK government. Companies using the platform will also be eligible for achieving the Carbon Footprint standards as well. So with that in mind, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Miles, who is going to have a run through the platform today for you and show you all its wonderful features.
Let me screen there. So this is our dashboard for any user. So when you first log on to our system, this is what you'll see. You'll get some quick overviews of your insights so far and your emissions up to this point within the year. You'll be easily able to jump to your yearly analysis and your monthly analysis. You'll see quick breakdown tables alongside any targets you set in the system. So it's an easy way for you to see how you're getting on currently, and also plan for the future. Within your dashboard, you'll also get quick and easy access to the emission inputs that I'll come on to later. And then along the side, you'll get access to editing your company details, users, and sites. So the first thing we'll jump into is the companies. The reason we start here, and typically when we set up a company, we do go here straight away, is because this is where a lot of it needs to be set at the start so you can track going forward. So first things first is your reporting year. We know that not everyone does January to December. So based on what you put in here will affect the emission factors that are used, and it will also affect your dashboard so you'll be able to see your tracking. We then have data tags. And the reason we have data tags in the tool is any piece of data you input, you'll be able to have an optional tag that you put alongside your data. And what this will allow you to do is you can track emissions against not just your company reporting, you can also do it against projects you may be putting on, or divisions you have in the company. So anything you're doing there, you can tag your data and have your own sort of personalized breakdowns of emissions. We then have additional data metrics. This is similar to comments within your reporting. You can have anything you want alongside here, limited to numbers only or full inputs. So quite often when people are setting up tools, they don't just want to track their carbon. Alongside the other carbon metrics, they might want to track other things such as spend, or their supplier names or any details there. You really have the customizability to input and track that alongside. And then you have your targets. So these are currently manually input, and alongside the tool we have our consultancy levels where we can help you determine targets, and you'll be able to put those into the tools. So that's what's then reflected here in your targets. So as you might have already seen from the bottom, we have quite a vast number of inputs you can use, as Zoe's already showed. So the first one we're going to look at, we'll just show a couple here today. I'm just going to show electricity. So you'll input your site. So in this account, we have 3 demo sites. You'll input your what we're calling end dates, but this is essentially to track against where the data is going to be put into your results. So which month is the data for your electricity? That's in your December period. So I'll put that here. You can then put in your supplier specific emission factor. So for this company, say it's 300, and that would be available from your electricity bill. And then you can put in your kilowatt hours. So I'll go for 1,000 here. And then here's your additional metrics. As I was saying, we have cost already built in. We have comments. We have the ability to upload evidence files. So when we do verifications or when you're looking back at data, you do have that available to you. And then you have your additional metrics here. So say I'm happy with this, I'm inputting my data. You'll then get quick feedback on what emissions have been calculated, both location and market based, if you're familiar with the electricity calculations, and your greenhouse gas categories will all be listed here. Sarah, is there anything you wanted to add on the electricity side?
I think perhaps, Miles, some of our users might be thinking, what happens if I don't know the energy tariff carbon intensity?
Yep, so the supplier specific factor here, it can be set on a per site level, so you can track it at the start and then it will be put in for you automatically and we can help with that. Or if you do leave this input blank because you're unsure, it will automatically be populated based on industry averages there. So that's all within the tool. So I will add that piece of data. And then what that would do, that would jump me straight to a results page where you can quickly see how am I trending over the year, what are my totals market and location based, and it gives you quick filterability. If you want to filter, I want to see one site, that will all update and you can sort it by the different date periods. So that's all accessible there. One other thing to note here is you also have full ability to edit these records after the fact. So if I put the data in and I find out, oh, actually we were on a renewable tariff or a low carbon tariff, I can click edit and I can change this at any time. So maybe it was actually only 10. So you can input that and you can edit any of this data at any point. There you go, there's an update. So that's a quick overview of electricity. I will jump into one of the other input that can be quite a large carbon source. So we do have flights here. So if I input some data, so quite often with flights, you get some flight records and you get details either on the airport code or the distance. We do have the ability for you to enter both straight into the tool. So distance, you'll need to give us the distance, the type, so if it was a long haul flight, short haul flight, and the class of flights. Not everyone will know that information. You might just know, oh, I went here. So what we do allow for is the selection of airports. So let me put a date in of the flight. Let's say you've got a searchable list here. So I'll just go London Heathrow. You have via routing, which is optional. I'll just go straight for JFK. You can then input your flight class, say it was an economy class flight, your number of passengers, and there we go. So there's another quick and easy input to input one flight into the tool. Zoe, is there anything else you want to add here?
What we often see, Mars, as you know, is for businesses that do a lot of flying, they've probably got one big flight report rather than documenting that one by one for every flight they do. Is there a way to add all of those in one go?
Yes, so let me pop this record in, and what I'll do is I'll jump straight into a new one. So instead of inputting this one by one, as Zoe says, that might take quite a long time if you've got a long report, you can bulk upload data. So this is available on every single data source we have, and quite often it is the same questions, but it allows you to input those in an easy Excel format. So you go here, it will kind of tell you what it'll be looking for, but main thing is you can just select which template. So if you're going to upload based on airports or distance, essentially by clicking that, you'll get an Excel spreadsheet, which once filled in, you drag and drop into here and it will input all of those records in. This does have error checking and whatnot built in as well. So if it doesn't recognize a flight for any reason, it will tell you about that and allow you to download those records so you can edit them in bulk. So you won't miss any while you're uploading. Okay, so that's a couple of our key inputs. Zoe, is there any others you recommend we should show off while we're here?
I think we've had a request actually on the chat to have a look through the spend inputs tab, if possible, please, Miles. We know that a lot of businesses do assess emissions by spend if they don't have activity data, so it'd be great to see that as well.
Yep, so here is spend. So as I was saying there, some people do like spend if they don't have the activity data, or if they want to do a larger screening of some of their scope 3 they don't have good access to data for. So it will ask for date of purchase. Again, this is kind of just to gauge which month it falls into. So we'll put that in here. It will then ask you for the database country. There's two databases we follow. So SIC, the standard industry codes for the UK, and also the NAICS, which is an American version, which essentially breaks down different industries. So I'll jump into the American one now. It will then ask if it's a capital good. This is just to help us gauge the greenhouse gas category it's going to fall into. I'll just say no for now. It will then give you a long list of the categories. Again, this is searchable and you probably won't have every single one, but it's good to have options. So I don't know, let's go for new housing. It will then ask you a currency. So we have a broad range of currencies that are available to you. So it doesn't all have to be in pounds or dollars. So whichever you have. Okay, let's just go Danish krone, and then you can input your spend in here. So essentially what that will do is that will convert the amount into the unit that is required to calculate, and it will give you your emissions. Apparently this much krone doesn't give you much emissions for new housings for sale, but essentially, yeah, that will calculate the emissions using spend. So what I'll do now is I'll jump into a bit of the analysis. Obviously, if you want to run through any of these in a specific demo, we can, and we can do that for your companies if these are sort of large sources to you. We do also have a custom tab for if you have already calculated emissions, you want to put them in bulk rather than calculating in the tool, you can put those in and give us your evidence files and we can check them in a verification. So your yearly analysis tabs, this kind of shows what Zoe mentioned earlier. You can choose which site you want to see your data for, but then it gives you a bit of customization on what type of reporting you want to see, if the two we spoke about. You also can include or exclude WTT or your well to tank emissions. So some people want to exclude them as they're sort of your scope 3 emissions there. You then have location and market-based reporting for your electricity. And you can see your emissions on the typical emissions based on the inputs you've been putting in or on your greenhouse gas categories. So I will show that in a second to give you a feel of how that looks. You get quick and easy dashboard here, so you can look at your different emissions by all these different scopes or emission sources. You get some nice and easy pie charts as well you can play around with and look at how your data has changed over the years. And then you get your fully exportable results tables. So let me just show off a couple of these. So some of this data we put in, there's a little bit of spend I put in. Here's some of the flights. So as I said, you can see this all in the inputs it went in as, or if I jump up here, we can see this now in our greenhouse gas categories. So this is brilliant for any reporting to CDP, science-based targets, or any time you are requested in this format, because it is becoming quite common these days. You then have your intensity metrics, which are always good to track against your KPIs. So we have employees, full-time employees, we have £1 million turnover based on the unit you select, and then an additional metric field based on what you want to track against for your company. And these can be managed and entered on an annual basis within your company side. So there's some tracking there. Anything you wanted to add on this one, Zoe, or should we jump into data tags? Show that off.
I think so as Miles mentioned there, the analysis for the months looks and feels very similar, and you can do all those same features in terms of toggling between the different reporting types, location, market based, etc. But Miles, I think you're right, it'd be great to show the data tags analysis as well.
Yep, so you can toggle on your different tags that you've set earlier. And what this allows you to do, as we showed, we've got project 1 and 2, and as I've been entering data for this test show, I have put them into different projects. So again, this just helps you slice your data in different ways to see different emissions. And then you also have what we call site tags. So site tags kind of work as you give a tag to a whole site, and any records that entered into that site will go into the site tags. Points, and what that helps for if you have divisions within your companies or certain sites report under different areas, you can easily just get a snippet and take the data for those based on both data and site tags. So what happens is when we set up these accounts, we'll typically discuss with you and work out how's best to start tracking your data and what tags you'll need. We then have your combined results. Quite often we get asked, do I have access to all of my data? Can I easily export it and run through and do any analysis or share it with others? Yes, you have your combined results. And what this does is it takes all of these results tabs and it puts it in one place where you can export and see all of your records and all of the stuff needed for reporting. And then finally, we then also have FAQs. This has a number of standard ones about methodologies and other areas, and this will grow and grow and grow as you ask us questions when using the tool and other people do use the tool there. So yeah, watch this space and do let us know if you have any questions and want to add to them.
Okay, so as part of the package that we're offering with Sustrax, you do get a verification of your results at the end of the year. So on the screen there are some bullet points on the benefits of having third-party verification on your numbers, but the main thing really is that it just adds that credibility and transparency around your numbers. So you get an experienced consultant who will have a look at everything in the platform, check nothing's missing, ask to see some supporting evidence, which, as you've seen, can be tagged alongside your data entries. So it makes that process really nice and smooth. And then at the end of that, you would receive the carbon assessed organisation standard as well. You can also submit your results onto CADI, which is a recently launched carbon database initiative. It's free to use, free to disclose, and it's very easy to transfer data directly from Sustrax over to the CADI database as well. And you get a nice tick for having had your results verified on CADI, if you do obviously go down the route of Sustrax with the verification included at the end there. The costings for Sustrax are likened to those of consultant-led support. So I think many of you on the call today will have done either an appraisal or a verification with us. So you're looking at sort of similar costings to those services that you will have already experienced with us. Of course, however, this is dependent on the size and shape of your organisation and also what level of platform you want to access. So as Miles has kindly showed us there, he's run through what we call the ultimate level of the platform, which has all those wonderful emission sources on there. Some businesses aren't looking to cover absolutely everything at this stage, and so you may look to be using a slightly more refined version of the platform for your reporting uses. Of course, we encourage you just to get in touch with us if you do want a quote for the use of the platform, or you'd like a demo to run through some other areas that we haven't had a chance to show you today. I think we have had a few requests in the chat there, Mars, so perhaps if we've got some time during the Q&A, we might be able to run through one or two more of those examples as well. So back over to you, Wendy. If there's anything you'd like to add at this stage, and perhaps we can tackle some of those questions. I think
Thank you so much. Wow, that's a whistle-stop tour through Sustrax MX there. Great. There have been a number of questions. Some have actually come on email. There have been actually some remarkably similar ones on the chat. One of which I'll start with is, can you enter previous year's data into MX?
Yep. So I'll take this one. So you have the full ability to enter data and calculate as early as 2019. So it has calculation abilities from there. And then also using that custom tab we showed off, you can either input the data one by one or just in bulk put in the totals you've previously calculated and have been sort of verified or checked.
Great, great. Actually, another one here. Do you have single sign-on? I think it is. I guess this is for folks that are using Microsoft 365. Are we able to have a single login, or do we need separate logins to our computers? Probably that one's for you again, Miles, there.
Yep, so we do have a number of sign-on options that we can work with you when setting up, sort of Google and other ones that you can use. And there's also a number of security features such as 2FA and other implementations we have to make sure your data is secure.
Perfect, perfect. Actually, we've got some around the flights and transport also. Yes, one user saying, I've got a mix of using a travel agency and also people that book individual flights, probably with the budget airlines, and then claim back on expenses. How do we manage these in the flights tab there?
So with that instance, you may want to put so do two bulk uploads. One might be distance, one might be airport codes. You can also then track and provide the evidence files so they can be sort of checked and verified alongside, as Zoe is discussing. So yeah, that's how I'd recommend doing that for the bulk upload.
And those can sit side by side. So for instance, you might have a CSV file and then some individual line items that relate to some expenses. You can do both of those on the same place. You don't have to use just all one and not the other, as it were.
Yeah, that's correct.
Excellent, great. Just having a look at a few more here. We've been calculating for a couple of years, and we need to be aligned to the greenhouse gas protocol. Is MX aligned with that?
Yep, so every input will automatically select the default greenhouse gas category we'd expect for the input, but then you do have the ability to override if there's a reason. I've seen some people ask in the chat about different controls and if something needs to be in different areas. So you can switch something to a sort of scope 3 item if it was a scope 1 or 2 for such as electricity. And then there is a tag that's put into the results pages so we can see you've overwritten it. We could discuss with you during verifications.
Great. Good question in here, actually. Is Sustrax MX an upgrade on Sustrax 2.0? I mean, to be honest, Miles, I'd say that it's a different entity. It's been built from the ground up you were in there obviously project managing the build of this. Yes, how would you relate Sustrax to Sustrax MX, please?
Yeah, so as you say, it's fully built from the ground up by us in-house, so it is quite different and allows for a lot of new inputs. If you are on Sustrax 2, please reach out and we'll look into sort of upgrading you and have discussions on moving over, because we are focusing on MX now.
Great. I've got a question here as well about how are we accounting? Do we account for carbon negative activities? I think I know what you're referring to there. Over to Zoe and Miles.
Zoe, do you want to?
Yeah, I can take this one, of course. Yeah. So obviously, Sustrax MX is focusing on the carbon reporting side of things. So showing your emissions calculated over a certain period of time. However, if you do choose to report on your emissions, then you can take into account outside of the platform whether or not if you're offsetting, for example. That's something that ties in quite nicely with the carbon database initiative that I briefly touched on before, where you can make a note of your scope 1, 2 and 3 emissions in the database, but also whether you have gone down the route of any carbon offsetting and any carbon neutral status as well. So that ties in quite nicely with the outputs of Sustrax MX.
Great. Okay. I'm not sure we can answer this one entirely, but we'll try. Can you also toggle between the organisational boundaries? This is financial versus operational control, equity share approach, or do you have to set up the system with one selection? Quite a detailed question.
Yeah, so I kind of alluded to this. So it does typically work on one, but you have full customizability to sort of change emission sources and set which boundary you're following. So as we set up the tool, we typically discuss that with you and make sure we're aware of what we want to do based on your base year.
I think there's a couple of questions really related to a lot of you are used to filling in a data collection pack, a DCP from us, or used to some kind of spreadsheet format wherever you're coming from. Does this replace that?
So yes, if you want to do the Sustrax system, it looks similar in terms of the spreadsheets and what we're asking are very similar. But yeah, it would be a different approach. So the appraisal is more end of year company led, whereas this is a monthly input, which can be done through the spreadsheets. But yeah, it's a different way of looking at it, a different way of tracking on a monthly basis there.
Great. Just looking through here. I think we partially covered this. There is a sort of custom categories that you have on Sustrax MX. Can you give us a sort of a view of the scope of different things that could be in that custom category? So I guess it's just a bit of an exhaustive list of things that might sit in there.
Yeah, so it can be anything really. So essentially what the input looks like is you enter the amount of carbon, say if it's got well sank, and enter that as well, and then choose the greenhouse gas category. Quite often if you're doing this custom approach, it will be maybe off the back of some consultancy that was quite bespoke, or you've done a product footprint with us that you don't want to now re-enter into the tool. It obviously does allow for you to put in some bulk materials and factors like that, but yeah, it will be any area where you've done work with us in the past and you want to just bulk upload that in, or you've done something quite bespoke that doesn't fit into the typical categories.
Great. And gosh, there's so many questions. You're a lively bunch this afternoon. That's great. I think this question is really about automation from what I'd say from ERP type systems, finance systems, from there directly into Sustrax. Obviously, we talked about loading in the data manually or doing a bulk upload. Is there currently or can there be automatic data exchange from those other types of internal systems that we have in our business? There's enterprise resource packages, things like that.
So currently the way to do it would be to get download there and bulk upload it in. But we are working on next year, we are working on APIs to both receive data out and input data into the tool.
Great. Let's see if we have Okay, I think that Zoe has answered the question about the cost of the platform, really, and what she said there. It does vary. It's not I'm being a politician and not answering the question here. If you're used to having a particular price for your appraisal, that's a really good guide. And obviously what MX is doing here, it's giving you greater granularity of information and helping your organization really to take control of that and monitor it on a monthly basis and really see your carbon information really as that management information and make decisions much faster. So I think really in that first year it's likely to be very much on parity with where your appraisal is right now, and going forward from there it may turn out to be a little bit cheaper as well. So there's good reason to want to do it, but we're very excited, I think more than anything else, to give you that management information that perhaps you haven't had before, because things are done on a 12-month basis. I think that's the big change there. Great. I think we might have another slide there. If you did get your phones out, by the way, the QR code just takes you to the MX video. That's also available on the website, so please do go and check that out. In the interest of time, I shall do one final shameless plug for the Carbon Database Initiative. I know that quite a number of you were on the session a couple of weeks ago when we launched this, and this is free to use, free to search, free to disclose your carbon footprint information, net zero declarations, carbon neutrality. And I really would encourage you to go online, take a look at that. So many folks have already signed up for it, and we're getting all the data together to go online there. If you are a carbon footprint client already, then it's very straightforward for us to transfer the data onto this public-facing database. So obviously we never do that without your permission. Please go and have a look at Caddy. QR is on screen there, I think. Also, we've got the manual link there as well. So please do follow that up. We will be formally launching those first early adopters onto the system in 2024. So you'll be hearing more from us about that. I think this is our last slide, Zoe, I think, of the day. So what we're going to do, actually, there's some contact details coming up. Do please reach out to us, to Zoe, to Miles, with any questions you have on Sustrax MX. If you would like to have a demo, and I'm sure there will be some questions specific to your organisation that perhaps you don't want in the public realm, we'd be very happy to chat with you about that. And as I say, from MX will be encouraging to export onto Caddy as well. So there's the link between those things, the ease of the calculation, the ease to disclose there. So please do have a look at both of those. Only remains for me to say thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I hope that's given you some good information about these new systems, and we look forward to seeing you on the next session. Thank you very much and have a lovely weekend.